Hi, guys. Welcome to SJ Masterclass, a podcast where two friends and avid readers are working to build an encyclopedia of the universe written by SJM. And we are going to go wherever the conversation leads us. This week, we have chapters 6 through 10 of Cat and Fury. I'm Rev, one of your hosts, as you know, ER nurse by night, knitter, lifelong reader, dog mom. Cat, your turn.
Hey guys, I'm Cat, the other host of SJ Masterclass. I'm also an ER nurse by day, a cat mom, reader, and knitter. Each episode, we're going to start with a brief review of the chapters that we're focusing on, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details. This podcast will be extremely spoiler heavy for both ACOTAR and SJM's other works. So listen at your own risk. We're excited for you to be joining our awesome book club, and I can't wait to get into chapters 5 through 10. Rev, let's do it.
Hey, Kat, I was going to get into the chapter review like we usually do, but I have a question for you. I would like for you to fan cast Rhysand, because these chapters we are getting into Rhysand, and I want a mental picture in my head who we are looking at. Who are we looking at?
Rhysand is just such a good character to fan cast. So I am going to send you pictures.
Okay, I have my phone right
have your
here
phone ready.
And I'm waiting.
First one, I feel like this is an obvious one. Henry Cavill.
Oh, girl, you know I feel bad.
Like Henry Cavill, he's literally perfect. He is, because he has the eyes, he has the hair. Second one is Tom Ellis from Lucifer. If you just gave him contacts. And he's... And then my final one, 100% Damon Salvatore.
Yes. Also, I know him best. I know everybody knows him from Vampire Diaries, but I know him from Lost. Okay.
He's an attractive son of a gun.
Sending you mine, and it is Dave Franco. I know
really
not very tall.
No, okay, I see it. Dave
Franco is taller. Do you see all these pictures?
Yeah. He's got that like smarmy charm.
Would I have kept from telling you all day when we have been talking that I was like, I'm only going to share it on the podcast, and I wanted to say to you so much. I did not read Rhysand and try to find someone that looked like him. I read Rhysand, and this is the face that came into my head. So I didn't force it. When I have read Rhysand starting, what did we say? Spring 2022 is when we read everything. This is the face that I see of Rhysand, and yes, Dave Franco.
I don't disagree.
I'm here for you. He's got the widow's peak. He's got the grin. He's got those eyebrows.
He's very
got the
chiseled.
Eyes that could just look at you like, say something else. Okay. All right. We did fan cast. Okay. I think I have to get into the chapter review. I have to stop thinking about Henry Cavill. We're doing chapters 5 through 10. So we're doing 6 chapters. Chapter 5. Rhys shows and takes Feyre away from the wedding, heading to Night Court. Rhys explains that he knows her struggle due to the bond that they share via their magical bargain. She spends her first overnight at the House of Wind in Night Court. The next day, the magical bond tugs at Feyre's mind to come to breakfast, and Rhys tells her he is going to teach her to read. Chapter 6. We get to see a little playful interaction with some flirty, sassy banter coming from Rhys. We meet Mor for the first time. Feyre learns about mind shielding, and Rhys starts her reading and writing lessons. Next, Feyre learns more about what powers she might possess as Rhys starts telling her about Hybern's likely plans. We learn that he wants Feyre's help searching for something. He's not yet said what it is. We first hear about the Illyrians. We will learn a lot more about the Illyrians in the future. We also learn of the attack on the priestesses in the Night Court. Rhysand takes a special affront to this. Feyre then returns to Spring Court. Her week is over, and she gets thoroughly and, I will say, annoyingly questioned by Tamlin to tell about everything that she saw, heard, said, everything at Night Court. We get to chapter 8, the Tithe chapter. Cat, this chapter. The water wraiths cannot pay their tithe, and Feyre gets mad when Tamlin is very cold-hearted and demands they pay, even they have no fish in their pond and no money. Can I just say one thing? They're hungry. We've seen that theme before. Feyre gives the water wraith her jewelry to help her pay her tithe, and the water wraith tells Feyre she will forever be in her debt. Tamlin is super angry about this. Feyre accidentally enters into Lucian's mind and wonders if this is part of the kernel of power that she got from Rhys. Chapter 9, Tamlin gives Feyre a gift. It's a paint set, and he gives it to her as an apology for fighting with Feyre about where Feyre helps the water wraith. Feyre tries to explain to Tamlin that she's having depressed feelings, depressed actions, depressed emotions. And as she is trying to tell her feelings to Tamlin, he loses control and explodes the entire paint set amongst everything else in the room. Last chapter, Feyre crouches down, and when Tamlin tries to approach her to apologize for exploding everything, she realizes she has made an invisible barrier between them. And then Rhys shows up again, right on time. Looks like 3 weeks have passed, and it's time to return to Night Court. Cat, get us started into the details.
Unlike the last book where I felt like there were a lot of quotes I wanted to talk about, this one feels more like so many comparisons between this book and the last book. So I want to talk on a broad spectrum of when Feyre goes to the Night Court. At one point, Rhys says to her, "You're not a prisoner. You can walk wherever you want to go. No one is going to hurt you. There is a kingdom under this mountain. Everyone knows if they come in here, they're dead. You are safe here." What do you think Tamlin would do if the situations were reversed? Because I feel like we get a little bit of this in ACOTAR, but by the end of ACOTAR, we learned that that was all a lie, that it was all to try and make her fall in love with him. What do you think Tamlin would do in this situation?
I think Tamlin would keep her, obviously, confined to a few rooms, but I think he would give her designated contacts like Alice. Obviously, Night Court has Caradwyn and Nuala, but I think he would give maybe Lucian. I think he would not answer questions. I think he would give her very limited information. And as per the chapters dictate, he would tell her, you only know what you need to know, and you should ignore the rest of it. I feel like that's very different from what Rhysand is like. This is your oyster. Your room is the pearl. You explore the rest of this place. It's open for you. And I feel like Tamlin would be like, I will answer your questions as I see fit. And these are the people that can also answer your questions because they have been given a script as what they're supposed to say to you, because I need to keep you safe. And the reason I feel like that is because if we go further, Rhysand has every intention to be like, I don't think I need to protect you. I want to teach you how to be the best person you can be. And Tamlin is consistently, I can protect you, even though he's proven that he can't. What are your thoughts?
I feel like if this was flipped, I do not agree. I think Tamlin would have said, well, my father would have put you in a dungeon, so you're going to be in a dungeon. He might give her more clothing, but if this were the case, because this is what Tamlin anticipates Rhys doing to her. Tamlin thinks you had to have been taken under the mountain. You had to have been taken to the kingdom of nightmares. I don't think Tamlin, if this situation was reversed, I do not think Tamlin would give her anything. I think the only reason he gave her Alice and Lucian is because he was trying to make her fall in love with him to break the curse. But if the curse is not a factor, because Tamlin is not a good person in these books.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even fix my face right now.
When
Wow.
when she first
That's
comes
so
back.
dark.
Right, but so is Tamlin. The way he acts towards Rhysand is very, you're the devil. You're the worst person. I don't even want to look at you. And when she comes back, he turns her around. He checks all of her and he's like, no, you don't understand. Rhys probably messed with your mind. And she's like, no, I know my mind. I know what happened. He's like, you don't know. It's that panic. I don't think with the way he treats her, I think Tamlin anticipated the worst because he would have done the worst.
Hearing you explain it that way, I see it. Wow.
Also, not my Tamlin read. It's my Lucian read.
It's your Lucian read. Since you just said it's your Lucian read, I'm going to skip way far ahead to point number 7 or 8 that I had to
Go
point
for
out.
it.
How did you feel about the insight into Lucian when Feyre enters his mind by accident on page 95?
I think this is really interesting because we don't get a lot of information. What we get are a lot of sensations. He feels guilty, he feels scared, he feels all of these things, shame. What I'd love is just one more page or a specific image that he's thinking of, because we see Lucian back down a lot in this chapter chunk. And we as the reader don't get a lot of the whys for the Lucian-Feyre relationship, but I think this is one of those pinnacle points that Feyre's like, I was in his mind. I know the sorrow, the shame, the fear, the confusion, the oldness of him that can't be explained in the text. But it is interesting that of all of the people between the two of them, she slides into Lucian rather than Tamlin, and Lucian doesn't know.
That is part of what I wanted to talk about, is that she does not slide into Tamlin's mind. She slides into Lucian's mind. But we've already established in the last book that she's already closer with Lucian. She trusts Lucian a little bit more. She might have the sexual relationship with Tamlin, but we know who she's friendly with, right? And so then I would like to take that one step further. If we have already established that she feels closer with Lucian and has like, even if it was accidental, she's already gone into Lucian's mind. She, for whatever reason, never goes into Tamlin's mind. What about on page 85 when he says, my father, for one, would not be pleased to learn a drop of his power is missing, or that Tamlin's bride now has it. And they're now just referring to her as not even a person, like not even Feyre has this, not even that the girl who saved the world has this. The term is Tamlin's bride. That is how Lucian is seeing her, and it expands a little bit more. If she enters his mind and sees all those things and he doesn't even know, what do we think about what happened on page 85 when he's talking about his father and referring to Feyre as Tamlin's bride?
I think this goes back to the last chapter chunk where he's like, you just have to do what Tamlin says. Tamlin is the High Lord. You are just the lady of the Spring Court. She's always going to be second to Tamlin. So I love this transition because it is actually Rhys who's like, maybe you're a high lady. And she's like, there are no high ladies. And he's like, okay, we'll get to that later. But the fact that both Tamlin and Lucian are like, you are the bride of the High Lord. You're not the High Lord's wife. You're not his equal. You are the consort. You're the person who goes with him. But I think Lucian is part of the same school that Tamlin is a part of. And I think that's because of his upbringing. I mean, look at who his parents are. His mother is weaker in a very specific sense
Sorry to interrupt you real quick, but that's even who Tamlin in the previous book compared her to. You will be just like Lucian's mom.
Yeah. Later on, we will find in book 3 when the lady of the Winter Court is like, she's a high lady? I want to be a high lady. This spreads, but it's the fact that the High Lord of the Winter Court is like, why did you have to say this? Of course you're going to be my high lady because I love you and I've loved you for 50 years. But it doesn't happen in the Autumn Court. And it's feel like because spring and autumn are so close physically, spring is as isolated as the Night Court when you think about it.
Right.
So there's obviously a relationship between the spring and autumn court. But later on in this book, when Lucian comes and he's like, aren't we friends? You gotta come with me. We gotta go back to Tamlin. He needs you. When she's with Asriel and she's like, no, I don't have to do that. Lucian is as brainwashed as Feyre was in book 1, but he's been brainwashed for a long time, or a longer time. I'm interested in seeing how the glimpses we get of him, because we don't see him a lot in this book. Once she goes Night Court, we do not see Lucian much after this.
Before we leave this topic, can I bring up one more part? There's the idea of Feyre being a trophy wife. Literally, we talked about it last week a little bit. Mm-hmm. Right now on page 74, Rhys says it, but I know you more than you realize, I think, and don't believe for one damn minute that you're remotely fine with being a pretty trophy for someone who sat on his ass for nearly 50 years, then sat on his ass while you were shredded apart. The idea of her being trophy wife, I have so many more quotes throughout this chapter chunk. But also, real quick before we go on, page 93, she says it herself at the top. She inclined her head slightly, not a full bow, because I was no one. It's to the water wraith when she's giving her gold to help her pay the tithe. I was the High Lord's plaything. Even Feyre recognizes how she is treated. There's so much about her just being treated in this way. Go on.
Here's what I think about this topic. When you are new to a situation and there is a group of people who have been doing this their entire lives and their ancestors have been doing the same thing, your inclination is to do what they do. It's like when you are new at your job, you don't go in guns a-blazing saying, I know how to do this job, or you shouldn't. You go in saying, teach me the way of your job. And I feel like that's what she's trying to do. But while she is dealing with this, there's someone else, like the devil on her shoulder, the High Lord of the Night Court, saying, you are better than this, and you know it. You are not being told the truth. If you want to be their lackey, that's fine, but you have to choose to do it. And I think that is where her struggle is coming from. If she didn't have this deal with Rhysand, I think she would emotionally and mentally break, because she would say, I have no other option. This is the way that they do things here. Because where else would she learn there was something different? She's not going to learn it at the Spring Court. Ianthe's not going to tell her anything different. She's not going to learn it at the Autumn Court. Where would she learn something different? Her deal with the Night Court is actually the thing that saves her. I mean, literally and emotionally.
I completely agree with you. We know it is different, but how do we explain or justify Rhys forcing her to get better his way versus Tamlin forcing her to heal his way? And I think that falls exactly into what you're saying. Rhysand is giving her this more comforting area. He banters and flirts with her and pushes her almost to a limit. And it feels almost distracting. Like he's trying to distract her.
So this is one of the things I wanted to talk about, is comparing Rhys and Tamlin. Let's just look microscopically at her illiteracy. When she's in the spring court, she's embarrassed. She doesn't want Tamlin to know how bad she doesn't want him to know the word she doesn't know, right? When she's in the night court, she's embarrassed, but she's like, well, this guy's just a jerk. It doesn't matter if he makes fun of me because he's going to make fun of me no matter what. So she loses that embarrassment and she actually learns how to read and write. I feel like it's the relationship that Rhys is like, yeah, I don't care if you don't know how to read and write. You're going to learn. She almost drops that layer of self where she's hyper aware because she doesn't want Lucien to know that she can't do these things. She doesn't want Tamlin to know that she can't do these things. Rhys already knows, so she's going to do it. It's just a difference of approach, I think. He hangs out and watches her, and she's like, don't you have anything better to do? And he's like, yeah, I do, but I'm choosing to spend my time here. I think it's just, their contrasting is very interesting.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to Under the Mountain. He's saving her from depression and despair.
Over and over.
Again and again. And even though Feyre doesn't realize it, for the second time around, right? This is round 2 where she's dealing with Rhys. She doesn't realize that he's saving her, but he does it anyway. At one point in time, she says, what you did to me under the mountain. And a couple pages later, he's like, did you tell anyone what I actually did to you under the mountain? And she just,
let's talk about something else. Right. She's like, no.
He is doing the work. And this is, again, one of his insights. I think you phrased it last book and you were like, he's playing with her. He continues to play with her, flirt with her, banter with her to keep her angry enough, to keep her motivated instead of depressed, instead of giving up. He pokes at her. It's kind of his way of flirting with her, but mostly he's trying to show her how to help herself. He also sees how the spring court, like we've just referred to, is coddling her, and he recognizes that that is failing because he's on the other end of her brain dump. Every night he's waking up seeing spring court is failing her, and he cares about her so much. And I don't even think that it's like, this is my mate. Like, he had to dress her in paint so no one could touch her. They have so many interactions that make them so close. And he is now like, I care about you enough. I am going to press you. It's not even just I'm going to make you learn to read. I'm going to make you mental shield, right? And at one point, she's really tired and he presses her, put your shields up. And she's like, I'm tired. And he's like, put your shields up. His hardness is parental almost at this point because they've spent so much time together and shared so much and he cares about her so much. Also, yes, he does realize at this point that she is his mate, that he needs her to be at her best, at her strongest. And no one else is doing this. No one else is showing her how strong she can be because everyone else is just like, Tamlin will protect you. All you have to do is sit here in your room. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, no one else is doing that.
Okay.
Go for your pen.
So I've kind of got a long response to this.
I'm ready for it.
We learn, I think it's in chapter 6 or chapter 7, she asks Rhys, why are you telling me all this? Why are you revealing as much as you are? And he's like, because I trust you. I know you're going to do the right thing. And then she goes back to the spring court, and this is on page 84, where Tamlin says, knowing my enemy's plans, his lifestyle is vital. As for what we're going to do, that's neither here nor there. So in that 2 sentences, he has said, I'm actually okay with you going to the night court because you're going to tell me everything that's happening. But I'm not going to tell you anything in case he's doing the same thing and trying to get information from me. This is the point where we see Tamlin's not trusting her. And then on page 86, when she has said something like, Rhys thinks I have powers. And Tamlin and Lucien are like, oh, maybe. And she says, did you suspect I had it? And he goes, I'd hoped it wasn't true, Tamlin said carefully. But now that Rhys suspects, now we have to deal with it. So we are having in this 3 pages, Tamlin said, I need to know everything that's happening over there, but I'm going to tell you nothing. because Rhys can get into your head and he'll find it out, so I don't trust you. But also, I have thought that you have these powers. This is Tamlin in a nutshell. He is such a control freak that he's not giving her any space to grow. Whereas Rhys is the one who's like, has anyone told you that you're really strong? You're stronger than a high fae. You caught a Suriel? I've tried twice. You know, there can be high ladies, but there just aren't any. This is the difference between them. And he has told her as much as he can. He doesn't tell her everything in this first time because he's like, I trust you, but I also have to look out for my people. I don't trust you to know the names of all of the towns that are in my kingdom. This is, I think, the biggest divide between Rhys and Tamlin as far as Feyre is concerned, is one of them is willing to trust, the other one is willing to use her. But the thing that gets me so excited is this feels like Tamlin is sending her to the Night Court to be a spy against the Night Court. That's how she ends the book, as a spy into the Spring Court.
Well, my pen didn't cover that.
When I realized that Tamlin was using her as a spy, I was like, oh my god.
Dude, I have it, but it's under a completely different point.
And she even says, I didn't realize I was a spy on page 84.
Yeah, I know. I literally have page 83 and 84 justifies his abuse. Anyway, my mind is blown after what you just said.
They don't want to train her because it's almost the sense of Tamlin does not want her to be powerful. Rhys Sand is like, do it. Get more powerful.
That maybe leads into how they were refusing to train her, even though Tamlin says they will protect her. Like, they never could. They never have, right? She ended up in Amarantha's realm. And now that makes sense why he refuses to train her. He wants to continue to spy on the Night Court. And so he doesn't give her any more skills, even though she's like, I'm ready. I'm here for it. Mm-hmm. I'm just lost because my mind just took a complete brain dump after your point. It's so brilliant what you just said. And I never even thought about it that way. But the only realistic explanation is what you just said. He knows he can't protect her, and he's going to let her keep going back to Night Court and use her as a spy.
But I think add on to that, what are their priorities? So this was another one of my questions, is what are the priorities of Tamlin versus Rhys Sand? Tamlin is barely in the Spring Court when they're together. He's off at the borders, right? And he's like,
he only comes back like the last week and a half or something.
And he's like, there's no war, there's no problem. Then what are you doing? Rhys Sand is like, there's war coming. And yeah, I've got other things to do, but I need to make sure that you know how to read. I need to make sure that you understand you have powers. Rhys Sand is choosing her because he trusts his team. He trusts his inner circle. He knows Cassian and Azriel are out doing things. But it's this different of prioritization. And I think it's very evident in these chapters where we're like, oh, you know what? Where's Tamlin's love? Where do we see his love anywhere in these 6 chapters? Or these 10 chapters?
I'd like to talk about Feyre learning to read. Page 57. Rhys realizes the need to poke at her a bit, to get her very angry instead of embarrassed. Rhys realizes and recognizes what she needs to get where she needs to be. How do we justify Rhys poking at her versus Tamlin poking at her, and they do it in different ways, and we accept one guy's way and we don't accept another guy's way? He pokes at her to get her a bit angry instead of embarrassed. So he mentions she will need to read and write, and this is where I love this dig that he takes at her. He is just like, all right, you want to play it cool? Then I will poke you, and you are not going to like what I have to say. He mentions she will need to read and write for dinner party menus. and all the thank you letters for the wedding gifts. And she'll need to know how to spell for embroidering all the sweet phrases onto the pillows that she's going to embroider. Page 61. She acknowledges how bad it was under the mountain that she could not read for the trial. So she is accepting how big this is. Rhysand versus Tamlin, I guess because he's her mate, understands that you are not going to entice her into this. She is stubborn. You are going to have to force her into this. And so my question is, how do we justify Rhysand being mean to her and making her feel embarrassed versus Tamlin?
I think there's a couple ways to look at it. The first one is Tamlin is more hands-off. Go learn. I'll teach you if you want, but go and learn how to read. Rhysand is like, I'm going to make sure you know how to read. Here is your assignment. You're going to do it. And we also see her pushing back at Rhysand. Like you said, they have this banter. They play a little bit. Tamlin doesn't play with her. He's yes or no. Right, whereas Rhys is like, yeah, okay. But he also makes a point of saying, did you get sleep? Did you throw up? Are you eating? Are you tired? What do you need? He is taking care of her, and we never actually see that from Tamlin. Every time she goes back to the night court, Rhysand is like, you guys have a food shortage? Why is she so skinny? Why does she have those dark marks under her eyes? I think that's how we justify the difference between Tamlin and Rhysand is Tamlin is very controlling, whereas Rhys is looking at the whole picture like, you have to be healthy before we do this. But also, when she isn't playing with him, that's when he gets worried. She throws her shoe at him. She does not do that to Tamlin. She would never do that to Tamlin. But she does it to Rhysand, the High Lord that everyone's scared of. There is definitely a comfort level there that she doesn't want to accept. And I think Rhys is like, yeah, I like that you can do this. I like that you want to throw this to me.
He has that intimacy that came from under the mountain of some actual emotional interaction.
I think another aspect of Rhysand versus Tamlin is Rhysand is a feminist. Tamlin is not. His second in command is Mor. We learn later on when Mor and Azriel and Cassian are dead and gone, who does he send in? It's not the Illyrian warriors. He sends in Amren. She's his last resort. The fact that his relationship with his mother and sister, the relationship he has with all of the priestesses, the fact that he's the one who brings up a high lady, Rhysand is not intimidated by female power. Mm-mm. I think Tamlin is. I think Tamlin is intimidated by anyone who has power that could either challenge him or could be greater than him.
Page 80. He is calling her on her bullshit, and he says something to make her feel bad. And I won't say she deserves it personally as Rev. It hurt my feelings when he ended up saying Mor was waiting for an invitation and Feyre never invited her. I was like, also, Cat, I want Mor to be part of our best friend group. I already know I'm such a nerd that people are like, we're waiting to meet our best friends next week. And I said that last episode. We connect to people in real life.
We connect to a lot of people. We're really cool.
We do. We are so good at connecting to people that they confuse us and think we are the same person. But I felt that when Rhys said that, I felt like he was implying that Mor's feelings were hurt because she was stepping back and waiting to be invited. And I know Mor doesn't need it. She can step into anywhere, into anything and be like, I'm here. What's up, bitches? But I have this written down. I would lay my life down for that woman. I have a bestie crush on her, but Rhys gives her the opportunity to invite her, and Feyre doesn't, and Feyre goes back to the spring court, but Rhys calls her on her BS, and he lets her know, You could have invited her.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any feelings about that?
I don't know that it's him trying to make her feel bad. I think it's him saying, you are not limited in your friends here. But also at the same time, she is, because she only has Nuala, Caradwyn, and more to talk to. She's already traumatized being taken from her home. So I don't know that it's him trying to make her feel bad, but I do think it's him saying, you have options. Next month, you have options. Well,
like he's just pointing it out, not calling her out.
Yeah, because I feel like she does have those options at Spring Court. She could hang out with Lucian or Ianthe or Bronn and Hart, but no one would dare cross the High Lord. Whereas the first thing we hear from Mor is her mocking Rhys. That says a huge thing about...
I know.
No one would ever say that to Tamlin.
I love it.
So that went well.
But she can get away with it, and it just shows, who are your friends? Who can you be friends with? Like,
but it's not just
who
her.
can F with you? You know what I mean?
Cassian could say it. Asriel could say it. Amryn could say it.
But we don't know that yet.
Right, I know. But my
we
point is,
see now.
Yeah. He has these people that he trusts. Tamlin does not have this. Tamlin is very much a one-man show.
Tamlin has to be in control. And
yeah,
Rhys,
he's a control freak.
At some point, he tells Mor, you're in control. There's a reason I gave this to you. He trusts his people. Tamlin trusts no one.
Right. And no one fights to argue with him. I mean, Lucian literally lowers his head and he's like, no, you're right.
We do see someone fight against him, and that's when Feyre makes her protective bubble.
Is that fighting against him, or is that protecting herself?
You are totally right. I was phrasing this as in fighting against him, but she doesn't. She is protecting herself. You're totally right. She enters Lucian's mind, burns handprints into the table. She makes this whole big protective bubble, and all of these things are out of her control. So I think that totally plays into what you were saying. She was instinctually protecting herself from Tamlin. These handprints, the protective bubble entering Lucian's mind. This doesn't happen until she gets back from the Night Court. Has she been displaying these things the entire time?
Well,
and no one told her about it, and she has all these powers? Or are they just happening now because she's like maturing? Kind of like when Rhys said, these are things that if we saw a son in a court, we would think he's exemplifying high fae powers, and now he's going to be a high lord. Has she been doing this the whole time?
Yes,
or
we see it though.
Are we just now seeing it after she gets back?
No,
and so the point is, if they were ignoring it, are they trying to control Feyre?
Yes, 100%. Because we see it in the last chapter chunk when she's breaking everything, and she's like, "Man, I'm really powerful."
Oh,
and
yeah,
they're like,
you're right.
They're like, "You're not
the
that
doors.
powerful." Yes, all of this stuff she breaks, and they're like, "Yeah, that's fine. You're not that powerful." She's been doing this for 3 months. It's not until she goes there, and Rhys is like, before anything happens, when she throws the shoe, he's like, "You're really powerful." And then she asks Tamlin, "Did you know? Did you suspect?" And he's like, "Kind of, but I didn't really want to think about it." They've known the whole time. It is a control thing. 100%.
Yeah, I think it's awful. They're like controlling her. The whole second half of chapter 7, we have lots of people justifying Tamlin's behavior of control. And she's like, what had it been like to imagine me in his enemy's hands after seeing what Amarantha had done to me? She's trying to justify he's okay with being overprotective. On page 102, he also justifies it by saying, I'll try to be better. I can't control it sometimes, the rage. Today was just bad. with the tithe and all of it. Let's forget it. Let's just move past it, please. And then Lucian on page 94 and 95, Lucian took a deep breath. This is when she's talking about everything that has happened. And he's like, Lucian took a deep breath. Here we go. And then on 95, Lucian lowered his head. I feel like we have everyone involved in this situation except for Rhys-Anne justifying putting someone down. That's part of domestic abuse, is when you make them feel like they shouldn't have the feelings that they're feeling. Please go ahead for your pin.
When we see Feyre throw her shoe at Rhys, I feel like that's old Feyre coming back. It's almost a spark. And that is the Feyre of chapters 1 through 5 of ACOTAR. On page 103, she says, I didn't have the nerve to wonder what I wanted or needed now, who I had become. When she goes back into the... I know.
Yeah.
When she goes back to the spring court, it is a depression that hits her. But then on page 106, she says, but I'd had enough of fighting and snarling and going back to that open, serene palace atop the mountain. It seemed better than hiding in the library. She has, within 6 chapters, the night court has become her sanctuary. This is important characterization where it's just these little nuggets of she already can see she's not going to be scared. She's not going to be worried about what she's going to say when she goes to the night court. Because even if she says something, Rhys is not going to snap his head or, snap at her when she says something.
On page 106, they are telling her to be docile. Just under halfway up, Feyre, do you need to know these things? Is it not enough for you to recover in peace? You've earned that for yourself. We're just telling her, calm down.
When you do a lot of work, you're just like, yeah, can't I take 5 minutes? But she's actively saying, no, I don't want that 5 minutes. And they're saying, can't you just relax, learn how to be in this body? But they're not teaching her how to be in this body. That's the difference.
When you look at somebody and you're like, just calm down, that never works. What you need to say is, I see what you were going through, and you actively listen, you rephrase to someone, I hear you are going through this. And they are not doing that for Feyre. They're just expecting her to say, you're going to protect me even though you have never been able to protect me. And they also maybe realize that her powers are so strong that if they let her get out of their control, she's going to be the Feyre.
I think that's the fear, is because Lucian even says, if my father finds out you have this power, he'll go after you. So there is that sense of like, we have to protect you. But the other side of the coin is Rhys, who's saying, yeah, you might have that power, but I can teach you. Like, we can figure out how to use that power. I think this whole chapter chunk, and potentially the whole book, one of the main themes about it is power. One of the things in this chapter chunk, so one of the themes that I picked out is power. The tithe, the power that Tamlin has over his court, the power that he has over the people within his court, the power that Rhys has over his court. They both have huge powers. And Rhys makes a quick comment, they know better than to leave under the mountain. They run themselves, they do their thing, but I'm still High Lord. He's not demanding a tithe, whereas Tamlin's like, this is the way it is. I have power here. Everyone bows to him. But also, Feyre's powers are just falling out of her. And also, Ianthe's power over the people within the Spring Court. Go for your pin.
Rhys-Anne wants to help her reach her full powers. Lucian, unfortunately, under control of Tamlin, they are trying to quell her powers and control her. I think you're right. The biggest part of this chapter chunk is having to do with powers and how are different people approaching it.
I do have a couple of quick things for Rhys, just because I feel like we can move on from him, but we learn a lot about his character here. We learn his sense of honor, the fact that on page 48, he talks about how Amarantha violated the space of Prythian's sacred mountain. We know mountains are special to Illyrians, especially in Silver Flame when they talk about Ramiel and the Blood Rite. He's the one who brings up the High Ladies. He is not intimidated by her powers. He seems excited by it. But also we learn he fought in the wars with the humans and the Fae, and they were on the side of the humans. That is a big revelation. This guy who's supposed to be the bad guy was actually fighting for the humans.
Kat, what else do you have to talk about?
I do have one thing I want to talk about with Rhys. You've already talked about how Feyre jumped into Lucian's mind.
Yeah.
And on page 56, that's when Rhys is talking about my innate talents allow me to slip through the mental shields of anyone I wish, with or without that bridge, unless they're very, very strong or have trained extensively against those shields. That's on page 56.
Mm-hmm.
All I could think, because he can't break Nesta's shields. In Silver Flame, I think it might happen in the next book, but I know in Silver Flame, he tries to go into her mind, and she has built, and I want to say it's an iron castle that he cannot cross.
Iron?
Mm-hmm. That's why I was like, I think it's iron. But I remember Rhys being like, man, she's really strong. But I also think of Tamlin, who tried to put the glamour on Nesta and it didn't work. How strong is she? She is very strong to be able to withstand two High Lords. And Feyre has the same power, almost the same level that Rhysand does. She might only have a drop of their powers, but she's got those powers. You've already mentioned it.
I think that Nesta is not to be effed with. Like, I don't think it was human Nesta, but I think it's Fae Nesta.
I think it might be.
Like, she was already that strong, and then you turn her into a Fae. She was strong enough to be like, I pissed my sister off, so what? I pissed off all these other people, so what? I think that I feel like the characters, when they transform to Fae, their personality traits just become that much stronger. Feyre being a protector. Nesta being like, say something. I will murder you with my eyes. And Elaine, her being loving and affectionate. I think we're going to see that in the future. Like, their strongest traits just become stronger. So that makes sense that they're trying to invade Nesta's mind. Good luck. You couldn't even do it when she was a human.
Right. Like, it couldn't do it when she was a human. When he was describing it. But also, so I'm going to do a quick crossover, which I know I've seen in multiple places, but it's always stuck out to me, is when Rhys is describing winnowing. And she's like, how do you do that thing? And he's like, winnowing? Think of it as this. And so this is on page 77, 78 of ACOMAF, where he's like, it's two pieces of a cloth. At one point you're in one part of the world and then you cross over. And he's like, it's a rare gift and a helpful one. Though only the stronger Fae can do it. The more powerful you are, the farther you can jump between places. In Empire of Storms, in the Throne of Glass series, pages 449 through 450, Fenris describes it because he can do the same thing. He can't do long jumps, but he can do little ones. And he says, no one knows.
And he had to take so much power to cross them.
Yes.
So many people.
It takes more out of him. And he says, no one knows where it comes from, what it is. But it lets me slip between folds in the world, only short distances and only a few times before I'm drained, but it's useful in the killing field. And just the way that Rhys describes it as 2 points of a cloth that are folded together, and Fenris does it as a folding piece of the world. Fenris not is weaker than Rhys, but he has a lesser power in this than Rhysand does. It is because he is winnowing, and I don't think anyone in Crescent City winnows, but I want to pay attention to see if they do.
They all Night Court can winnow and try to teach Feyre how to do that. So I think you're right. I think it shows an amount of power, how far you can winnow, how often you can winnow, and then Feyre can winnow.
Yes. And over long distances.
But also she can't at first. And is that just like lack of knowledge of her power, lack of knowledge of knowing how to do it?
Lack of training.
Right.
Don't forget, she's so new to this. And they've been doing this for 500 years.
She was just human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let me kind of go through my notes here.
I only have one last thing.
Bring it up.
It's not something we need to discuss. It's just something I need to say. On page 72, when Rhys is like, rumor has it you caught a cereal. And she's like, yeah, no big deal. And he's like, I've tried twice and failed. And she's like, is that, I would say this is a statement of how much power she has after she has gained all of these pieces that are making her alive again from all of the Fae lords. But she did that as a human before she had any of these powers. First of all, what is he looking for?
Right.
We'll find that out.
We will find out.
I think it's a dread trove. Or the Ouroboros mirror, but whatever. But also, like, if he couldn't catch a cereal as effing Rhys-Sand.
And she could do it as a human?
What are we saying about her power now that we've already talked about this entire episode, that she has now all the powers of every single court?
Yeah, it's pretty big. She does it 3 times. She does it one every book.
And the cereal, if we're going to talk about future books, the cereal isn't like, I hate you, I'm fighting you, don't catch me.
Right.
The cereal really likes Feyre.
He's like, oh, God, finally, you've caught me. Oh, no, let me tell you everything.
Oh, my God, I have so much to tell you. Please ask me the right questions. Please ask me.
Mm-hmm.
He loves Feyre. Also, why doesn't he like Rhys? But who knows? Different story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Tithe.
When she sees those wraiths, she thinks, I know, or she says to him, I know what it's like to not have food. Do you know what it's like? And he calls that wraith a gluttonous fairy on 94. This thing that has skin and bones covering her. It's this rich getting richer aspect of it. But also we see Alice on 97 says, too many fairies have tasted hunger these past 50 years. Don't think word of this won't get around.
The part of the reading that I remember is when Alice is talking about the water wraith. Not only does she say what you said, but she also acknowledges that they don't have any food.
So kingdom doesn't have food.
Alice acknowledges that.
Mm-hmm. And she says, no one would have done what you did. They won't forget it, and neither will the people who saw you do it.
And the way that Tamlin interprets that is great. All these people are going to continue to ask me for, what would you call that? A relief from them have to paying the
generosity,
tithes.
anyone who's, yeah.
And the way Feyre sees it is people are going hungry in your lands, and you can't see that. The disjointed way that they are looking at that, I think really shows why. Sure, maybe they connect physically. Sure, lots of people do. Lots of people want to have sex. But Rhys-Sand comes at her, and so does Azriel, and so does Cassian, and so does Mor. They all come to her eventually in a place where they have had less than, they have been abused, they have been judged. And Tamlin is just like, literally in the chapter of the water wraith interaction, he's like, this is the way we've always done it. My dad did it this way. My granddad did it this way. This is the way we should do it. He has no mentality yet. And I'm not saying he's not going to get there, because we've both talked about there's going to be some redemption arc. But where we are now, he has no understanding of giving somebody a break, understanding what it's like outside of just being a rich High Lord. And even after speaking with Feyre, and Feyre's specifically like, I've been here. You have no idea what it's like to have your sisters be hungry. And this chick has her sisters hungry. But there's no way that they're ever going to connect because Tamlin refuses. And Rhysand can connect with that. And that's what gives Valeris the giving community nature that Spring Court will never have that community.
When you were talking about Tamlin's redemption arc, I'm wondering, so there's a line on 71 where Rhys says, I don't know when or where he plans to attack. He's talking about Hybern. I don't know who his allies might be. And she's like, he has allies? And he says, cowards who would vow and join him rather than fight his armies again. We know in book 3 that Tamlin, well, actually at the end of this book, we know that Tamlin has sided with Hybern. Do you think the times now when he's saying he's going to the border, he's actually going to Hybern?
That's a really good question. I don't know about that now, but I could definitely see it in the future. After Feyre goes to Night Court and is part of Night Court and is solidified there, and then Spring Court is ostracized by Night Court, I could see him going to Hybern just as like I hate everyone, I hate everything, I'm depressed. He finds himself in the place that Feyre was before. Rhysand saves Feyre from her depression, but no one is, I mean, Feyre leaves, Lucian leaves, no one's able to save Tamlin from his depression, and maybe that's what he resorts to. I don't think it's now, but also it is a really cause of concern because I never thought about that. What if he is, and we are still having the conversation even in book 2, does he love Feyre or does he not love Feyre?
He doesn't lose Lucian until book 3, but he sides with Hybern at the end of this book.
Right, when Nesta and Elaine have to go into the cauldron.
Yes, and she breaks the bond, quote unquote.
So is he doing that now?
Yeah, that's the question.
Is he totally not loving Feyre the entire time and setting her sisters up for failure?
We've also said she's a possession to him. It's not about love.
Where does Ianthe play into this?
So I do have a small Ianthe section. This goes to what Rhys talks about this in, I think it's chapter 8. On 71, we have Rhysand saying, we now have several untested High Lords, broken courts with high priestesses angling for control like wolves around a carcass. I think that is what Ianthe is about. She's just about power. She's about making sure she's connected to the most powerful person she can be. We know from this book that Ianthe tried to get with Rhysand, the most powerful High Lord, and he said no. So she went to the next one that she could, which we assume is Tamlin. I think that's what her game is looking out for number 1. But another thing I wanted to bring up, since we're kind of talking about Hybern at the end of this book, is on 74, Rhysand is talking to her, and he's like, because there might be a day, Feyre, when only you stand between the king of Hybern and your human family. That's exactly what happens at the end of this book. It is her on one side and them on the other side, and Hybern between them.
He also says, become someone Prythian listens to, become vital, become a weapon. It's kind of like Rhysand realizing, if I know how much your family means to you, everyone else does too. Realizing her family will be used against her. And
the way his family was used against him.
And the way he used Tamlin's family against Tamlin. And above that, he says, you've got another choice. You can master whatever powers we gave you and make it count. And so I feel like that quote, more than anything else in this book, shows that you're gonna have to step up and you are gonna have powers, but are you gonna make it count? That also comes in the play with what you were saying. Her sisters standing across from her. Here's the little bathtub. Going to be strong enough? Is she going to stand up against Hybern? Unfortunately, she doesn't get to save her sisters. Fortunately, not saving her sisters gets us to somewhere else. There's so much introspection to be had about what is said and how that directs the rest of the book series.
And these little nuggets that are here, we know what happens later on. Rhys is a super powerful High Lord, but his power isn't good on Nesta. Okay, so I've got 2 crossovers / comparisons. This is going back to last season in ACOTAR. It's on page 375. I let the sounds ravage me, let them lay me flat and run over my body with their drums. Up and up, building to a palace in the sky, a hall of alabaster and moonstone, where all that was lovely and kind and fantastic dwelled in peace. And then page 45 of ACOMAF. I smelled jasmine first, then saw stars, a sea of stars flickering beyond glowing pillars of moonstone that framed the sweeping view of endless snow-capped mountains. Welcome to the night court. She sees this palace when she gets the music from Rhysand in the last book. And we talked about it then. But then also on page 27 of ACOTAR, one of the High Fae could turn your bones to dust from 100 yards away. Page 49 of ACOMAF. This is after she's thrown the shoe. He's hissed and lowered the shoe, his eyes meeting mine as the silk dissolved into glittering black dust in his fist. His fingers uncurled, the last of the sparkling ashes blowing into oblivion. The way Sarah J. Maas is writing these books is very intentional. The images that she uses, the way that she is framing the world building is very intentional. And I mean, for me, it's why we're doing this podcast, right? To make sure we can say, is there anyone in Throne of Glass that can create the dust? Is there anyone in Crescent City who can create the dust? Is there another Moonstone Palace somewhere in one of these universes? It's these little things that I want to pay attention to.
I will say, in Throne of Glass, the closest thing I can think of to a Moonstone Palace is Maeve's Palace.
Yes.
In my head, it is so shimmery and shiny. It glows in the moonlight.
I don't remember what kind of stone or what color it is, but I do want to pay attention to it because same. That's the only stone I can think of. I want to note that Caradwyn in Celtic mythology is the goddess of transformation, rebirth, but she's also a keeper of a magical cauldron, which the cauldron is a huge thing in ACOTAR.
Cauldron, huh? What does the cauldron have to do with this book series?
Again, she knows what she's writing. I do want to talk a little bit about Hybern if we can. We learn a lot about him. On page 70, the King of Hybern has been planning his campaign to reclaim the world south of the Wall for over 100 years. And then Rhys says, Amarantha was an experiment.
Yeah.
But this kind of counters what we learn in ACOTAR, where we learn that, or it's implied that she sailed over to Prythian without
kind of going solo.
Yeah, like without Hybern's knowledge.
To do it on her own. Yeah.
Yeah. Did he know or did he not know? Because now we're getting it from Rhys's perspective, and Rhys would know more than Tamlin or Alice. What's the truth?
My opinion, after reading this, is that Amarantha came here planning to do her thing. And I think that this opinion comes from thinking she is like Maeve, thinking she is like the Valg, that she just wanted to come over here and do her thing. I don't know what race Hybern is. Maybe he could be Valg. Maybe he could be a Prince of Hell. But nobody knows. And I also found that very confusing. It kind of sounds like initially when I was reading this book series, Amarantha comes over to do her thing to try to kind of get control. But then reading A Court of Mist and Fury, it sounds like Hybern knew what she was doing and it was an experiment. None of it really makes sense to me, but if I had to settle on one, I would say that Hybern knew what Amarantha was doing and let Amarantha do what she was going to do, sitting back like this.
Yeah,
I'm going to bide my time.
I agree.
And see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Hybern is using her as an experiment in the sense of, can she get away with it? Can she do it? Because we learn in ACOTAR, when Nuala and Caradwyn are taking her down the hallway, one of Hybern's men is talking to one of Amarantha's men, and he's like, Hybern can take her powers anytime he wants. There's that little snippet where you're like, okay, so maybe he knows more than implied initially. But there is this sense that there's always, I think that's the plot of all of these books. There's always one power trying to take over another power.
And the humans / Fae are always going to win. And that just shows about the difference between Fae power and human power. But Fae power and human power are what joins together always in the end and wins.
Yeah. That's the point of the last book. It was a human that beat the curse. It was a human that defeated Amarantha. The High Fae couldn't. The Lesser Fae couldn't.
Let's have this conversation after, I'm sorry to say it, Kat, I know how much it affects you, after Kingdom of Ash.
We won't. There are twice during this chapter chunk that Feyre thinks about or notices Rhysand's wings. I think she's got a bit of a wing kink. On page 67, she thinks that he's the High Lord blessed with wings. And on 74...
I can't.
The shadow of wings rippled again. She is acutely aware of Rhysand's wings and his wingspan. And I think that's adorable. And you know what? This is the book that started it for so many of us. I'm very aware of wingspan. My final thought is on page 43. This is at the very beginning. So tying it full circle, when Rhys has come in and broken up the wedding, whatever had been building beneath my skin went still and cold. Why did that happen? Is that because Rhysand was there? Is it because she's no longer in danger? Is it because her mate is there? Why did the power that had been aggressively building up in her just suddenly go still?
Mating bond.
Is it the mating bond? Finally calming down, being like, ugh, he's here. We're fine.
Also, just to revisit our last topic, she's already seen Rhysand's wingspan.
She has, and she thinks there's a point in this chapter chunk, not the two that I mentioned, where she's like, this would be a great day for flying. And that's when Moore's like, just toss him over the side. He'll be fine.
Just kick him off.
She constantly is talking about his wings. I love it.
I have to blow some cool air on myself. Can I say one more thing? This isn't
I'd love it
in
if
my
you
notes
did.
at all, but
Yeah,
I'm on
go
the
for
same
it.
page. Page 43. I shouldn't have been surprised, not when Rhysand liked to make a spectacle of everything and found pissing off Tamlin to be an art form. Can I just say, I'm not trying to say I should be with Rhysand or anything like that. I'm just saying maybe I would be Rhysand's sister. Pissing off people to be an art form? Kat, you and I love that.
You do love it. But here's the
You
thing.
and I love it. Don't
This
just
is
blame
what I
me.
wrote.
It's us.
What an entrance. This man understands the art of production, of coming in.
And doing it in a way that you can... I don't even know what you're talking about.
Just here.
That's passive. What? I did what? No, all I said was this. It's an art form.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. The way he does what he does is intentional.
Yeah.
Kat, do you have any last little things that you want to talk about real quick?
I don't think so. I think that covers everything I was going to say.
Oh, great. Well, I think that finishes the episode. Next week, we will be reading chapters 11 through 15 of A Court of Mist and Fury. Kat, do you know what happens at the end of that?
I don't. I'll find out when I read it.
I'm just going to give everybody a little briefing. We are going to meet Cassian and Azrael. That's what happens next. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe below or wherever you get podcasts. We can also be found on Instagram at SJ Masterclass. Masterclass has 2 A's, SJMAAS, and by email at sjmasterclass@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. What did you think of our episode? What did you think about our thoughts? Let us know in the comments. What are you doing right now? What are you doing later tonight, Kat?
I'll tell you what I could really go for right now is a big old margarita.
A margarita? Do you want to go and edit this episode maybe with a margarita?
Maybe in 15 minutes?
I could definitely see you in 15 minutes.
Let's do it. I'll see you there. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.